We have Atlantic staff writer Tom Nichols, Bloomberg senior writer Stephanie Baker. She is the author of the book Punishing Putin, and former U.S. ambassador to Ukraine and Deputy Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs, Stephen Pfeiffer. So welcome all three of you. Ambassador, you first here, sir. A new report from the New York Times is headline, Trump reverts to land swaps for peace in Ukraine, saying Trump's latest statements are a reversal of what he seemed to have agreed to with European allies, signaling Putin wants all of Donbass, including areas not now occupied, and freezing current battle lines. Is that a non-starter for Ukraine based on everything Zelensky has previously said?
I think that's going to be very hard for Ukraine to swallow. I mean, look what happened yesterday. Putin got red carpet treatment. He did not agree to a ceasefire. He made no concessions, and he left Alaska with no severe consequences. Based on what Mr. Trump had said, both with the Europeans on Wednesday and then on Air Force One flying to Anchorage, his goal was to get Russia to agree to a ceasefire that would then be the base for negotiations. When Putin said no, what Trump should have said is, I'm sorry, Vladimir, let me tell you the consequences that are going to result and will be unfolding over the next several days. And it should have gone beyond tariffs and secondary sanctions. But instead, Mr. Trump imposed no consequences, and it looks like the proposal that he conveyed to Zelensky and to the Europeans by phone last night, and that will be discussed Monday, is basically the Russian position, which requires that Russia occupy Ukrainian territory, and Ukraine has to give up territory that the Russians do not even occupy now. That's not going to be very attractive to the Ukrainians.
Tom, I want to pick up on that and read a bit more from that New York Times article here. Here it is. Mr. Trump has dropped his demand for an immediate ceasefire and believes a rapid peace treaty can be negotiated so long as Mr. Zelensky agrees to cede the rest of the Donbass region to Russia, even those areas not occupied by Russian troops. So same question. Is that a non-starter for Ukraine? And do you interpret this as Putin's first proposal or final proposal?
Should be a non-starter for everyone but Russia. The president of the United States met with the leader of Russia, said, I want a ceasefire, and then we'll negotiate. And the president of Russia came to American territory, this war criminal, walks in, basically, I think what happened, and said, here's what I want, here's what you're going to agree to, here's what you're going to tell Zelensky, thank you for the visit, thank you for the red carpet, and now I'm going home, get on it. And that's simply unacceptable. It should be unacceptable to Ukraine, but it should also be unacceptable to the United States to play the part of some kind of land broker where we trade away other people's lives and territories like poker chips to a dictator and a mass murderer. It's crazy, and I think. The president accepted this tells you just how badly this went. I think we're going to find out in the coming days that this summit went a lot more poorly than anyone is letting on at this point.
Well, Stephanie, I want to play a bit of what Putin said about Ukraine after the meeting. Here it is.
I agree with President Trump, as he has said today, that naturally the security of Ukraine should be ensured as well. Naturally. We are prepared to work on that. I would like to hope that the agreement that we've reached together will help us bring closer that goal and will pave the path towards peace in Ukraine.
So what do you make of Putin's acknowledgement of Ukraine's need for a security guarantee?
Well, it's absolutely outrageous that he was saying that while Russian drones and missiles were attacking Ukraine at that very time. So the idea that he is even acknowledging the need for Ukraine's security is almost absurd in the circumstances. And I think the Ukrainians were certainly abhorred by that statement. Look, Russia has violated the 1994 Budapest Memorandum, which provided security guarantees for Ukraine. And I don't think that anything that Putin signs related to Ukraine can be trusted long term. So this proposal by Putin, which Trump seems to have swallowed, to hand over the 25% of Donetsk that it has not been able to control militarily since 2014. It's spent over a decade, trying to get control of that. The idea that that would be handed over to Russia with a promise by Putin not to attack Ukraine further is frankly absurd. And, I think it would weaken Ukraine's ability to maintain its defenses on the eastern flank. That section of Donetsk is very crucial for Ukraine's defense. They've built up quite substantial fortifications there. And it is a non-starter for them to even contemplate handing that over for no concessions whatsoever.
So, Ambassador, going back to the meeting, vague statements about progress toward a peace deal. Vladimir Putin indicated he's not budged on his demands. And we are lacking details about what he and Trump discussed in their 3-hour meeting, despite a New York Times article that was out this morning that made suggestions to that effect. But what is your takeaway overall from the summit? Has it moved the needle in any direction? And if so, which direction?
It certainly has not moved the needle towards bringing about a ceasefire or an end to the Russian-Ukraine war. Based on what we've learned today from reporting, basically on Monday, Trump is going to convey the Russian position, the position that we've known about for months, to Zelensky and to the Europeans. And that's not going to hold any attraction either for Zelensky or for the Europeans. Now, the one glimmer there, the one thing that suggests there might, I just say might be a change, is this idea that the United States might participate in a security guarantee. But until we know exactly that would entail, it's not clear if that means much of anything. At the end of the day, I was in Ukraine a few months ago. Ukrainians, I think, are prepared to accept that they might have to leave some territory under Russian occupation. They don't want to ever agree to that legally. But they're not going to consider that unless they have a firm security guarantee where they have assurance that 2 or 3 years down the road, Vladimir Putin, having rebuilt his military, doesn't launch another invasion.
Yeah, and that so it stops there.
Is very important.
So, Tom, witnessing the treatment that Putin got, let's say the red carpet, the limousine ride one-on-one with Trump, speaking first during the press conference, and then walking away without agreeing to a ceasefire, was this a masterclass in successful deal-making put on by Vladimir Putin?
Well, it was a humiliation on the level of Helsinki when Trump met Putin in Helsinki. And Putin didn't have to make any deals. It's very clear to me there was no negotiation at all. Putin went in, laid down a series of terms, got a nice ride, hung out with his friend in a Cadillac, and went home. And I think it's really important that we conceptualize what he's asking for, because we keep putting it in terms of, well, he's thinking about security guarantees and maybe we could do a land swap. Putin's proposal is this: let me keep the territory I've conquered, give me some more territory that I haven't conquered, let me freeze the rest of the line in place so that I can take a military breather, and then a haggle with you Westerners who are, very legalistic people about security assurances that I have no intention of allowing to come about or implementing, while I try to destabilize the situation along the line and in the government in Kiev, hopefully to get rid of Zelensky. Then I can get the Ukrainians perhaps on their own to pull out of that and ask for Russian intervention, or I can conjure up some kind of event along the front that will let me reignite hostilities. You have to think like a spy and an infiltrator rather than a diplomat when you're talking about what Vladimir Putin wants. And I think we have to be really careful to talk about this as if Vladimir Putin is interested in any kind of traditional diplomacy. And that's why this summit was so humiliating. He flew to Alaska and put down his terms and went home. And Trump seems to have accepted those terms.
So, Ambassador, we have Zelensky meeting with the president in Washington on Monday, where Trump said it's going to be up to Zelensky to get a deal done. What do you think that portends for this expected meeting? How do you think it's going to go?
Yeah, that was the worrisome thing to me, or one of several worrisome things about the president's interview with Sean Hannity, is he now seemed to shift the entire burden on Zelensky and the Europeans. It's now they have to make this decision, when again, he's giving them a Russian position that is really unchanged. I think it'll be good for Zelensky if there are other European leaders in the room. That reduces the likelihood of a repeat of what we saw back in February. But they're going to have to find some way, mindful that the president has this very bizarre ego, to try to move him off of this. But it's not going to be, I think, a very positive meeting. And the question is, then what does President Trump do after the Europeans and Zelensky say, well, nice try in Alaska, but you really didn't move the things forward? What happens then?